So what if the difference between, a lifetime of financial struggle and actually building lasting wealth came down to just exactly 60 minutes of television a day?
I mean, that sounds like a massive
It
exaggeration.
really does. But when you look at the actual data on how self-made millionaires spend their time compared to everyone else, that 1 hour mark is just this massive dividing line. So welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are on a mission today to just, well, completely cut through all the overwhelming noise of extreme self-help advice.
Oh, yeah, the really intense stuff.
Exactly. You know the narrative I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The waking up at 4 a.m., shivering in a freezing ice bath, just hustling until your eyes bleed so you can, quote unquote, crush the competition. I mean, it's exhausting just thinking about it.
It's so exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's an incredibly pervasive myth, too. We're constantly sold this idea that finding financial freedom or even just personal well-being requires you to push yourself to these punishing, almost theatrical extremes.
Right. It feels like a performance sometimes.
It really does.
Yeah.
But when we actually analyze the daily routines from our source material of people who have built sustainable wealth and maintain their sanity, which is key,
Yeah.
the reality is far less glamorous. The real driver of transformation isn't some dramatic lifestyle overhaul. It's the compounding effect of tiny, hyper-intentional micro-habits.
Okay, let's unpack this because having a list of, 17 disjointed micro habits can very quickly just feel like another stressful to-do list for you.
Oh, definitely. Another thing to feel guilty about not doing.
Exactly. So instead of just walking through a checklist, we're going to decode the underlying patterns of why these specific habits actually work. And we're going to start with the absolute foundation, which is your brain's input-output ratio.
Right, the neuro diet.
Yeah, because before you can change the number in your bank account, you really have to change what you are feeding your mind.
And Thomas Corley's research on rich habits provides just the perfect baseline for this. I mean, he spent years studying the daily routines of wealthy individuals and comparing them to those who were struggling financially.
And the difference wasn't what you'd expect.
Yeah,
Uh,
not at all. The starkest difference was not asset allocation or, secret stock picking strategies. It was media consumption. 67% of wealthy people watch TV for 1 hour or less each day.
Wow.
Yeah. And conversely, 77% of people who are struggling financially watch TV for 1 hour or more each day.
I mean, it's like a strict dietary audit, but for your cognitive bandwidth. If you are consuming empty mental calories like endless reality TV or just doom scrolling on your phone, your brain is in a totally passive state. It's basically just absorbing rather than generating anything.
What's fascinating here is the mechanism at play, which is neuroplasticity. When you are a passive consumer of content, your brain often shifts into these alpha wave states.
Which is like what, exactly?
It's very similar to daydreaming or light sleep. You aren't being challenged at all. But when you shift from a consumer to a creator, you force your brain into active problem solving.
So even if it's just a small amount of time.
Exactly. The source advises starting with just 15 minutes a day. Maybe dedicating that time to writing a short story or learning basic Python to build an app or recording a YouTube video.
Right, because you're actually doing something.
Yes, you are developing new neural pathways. You are building resilience and actual real-world skills that passive consumption just simply cannot simulate.
So the goal for you listening is to get your input-output ratio to a place where you're producing more than you're passively absorbing. But let's look at another vector input, which is other people.
Oh, this is a big one.
Yeah, I mean, there's that classic Jim Rohn quote, right? That you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If your physical circle just complains constantly about the economy or their jobs, you are passively absorbing that totally defeatist mindset.
And that's because we are hardwired with mirror neurons, which means we unconsciously mimic the behaviors and attitudes of the people around us. It's a social survival mechanism.
So we just blend in.
Basically, you cannot make drastic, positive life changes in an environment full of constant friction and negativity. Your brain will literally pull you back down to the baseline of your peer group just to avoid social alienation.
Let me push back on that a little bit, though, because most of us are kind of stuck in our physical realities. I mean, if you work a normal 9-to-5 job and your cubicle mates are chronic complainers, you can't exactly just fire your coworkers.
Right, yeah.
And you probably don't have a network of millionaire innovators on speed dial to replace them with over the weekend.
No, most people don't. But that is exactly where the digital age offers a complete workaround. You don't actually need physical proximity to curate your circle anymore.
So you just build a virtual circle.
Exactly. You can intentionally distance yourself from a negative physical environment by drowning it out with high-quality digital inputs. Your 5 closest influences can easily be, authors, podcast hosts, and YouTube channels.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, by filling your mental space with people who are solving bigger, more complex problems, you basically hijack those mirror neurons to mimic success rather than stagnation.
Which brings up a pretty critical problem, honestly. Once you've successfully curated your inputs and you have all these high-level ideas firing off, your brain is going to be incredibly active. But cognitive energy is finite.
It is very finite.
If we don't build psychological safeguards to protect that newfound bandwidth from friction and outside distractions, we're going to burn out way before we ever get to building actual wealth.
Precisely. Because every single choice you make, from what to eat for breakfast to whether you should take on a massive new project at work, it all draws from the exact same pool of cognitive energy.
And we all know the classic examples of decision fatigue, right? I mean, we've all heard about Steve Jobs wearing the exact same black turtleneck, blue jeans, and New Balance trainers every single day.
Yeah.
Or Mark Zuckerberg with his gray t-shirts.
Right, the uniform approach.
Yeah, the audience definitely knows that standardizing the trivial things simplifies choices and saves energy. But let's really talk about what that energy conservation looks like mechanically in the brain.
Let's use a computer analogy for this. Think of your cognitive bandwidth like the RAM on your computer. If you have 50 background applications running, worrying about your outfit, stressing over some social obligation you really don't want to attend, agonizing over where to eat lunch, those background apps are just eating up all your processing power.
So you're just lagging all day.
Exactly. And when it's time to open a high-stakes, demanding program, like strategizing a career pivot or analyzing a new investment, the entire system lags or just crashes completely.
Wow.
Standardizing daily choices is simply force quitting those background apps so your RAM is fully dedicated to the tasks that actually move the needle.
And one of the biggest background apps draining our RAM is what the source calls the yes trap.
Oh, absolutely.
Research published in Psychology Today shows that we have this deep-rooted, almost evolutionary pressure to constantly say yes to things, requests, extra projects, social invitations, even when we are already completely at capacity.
Right. It stems from this very primal fear of rejection and tribal alienation. But the consequence of the yes trap isn't just burnout and resentment. It's the massive opportunity costs.
Because you're saying no to your own stuff.
Exactly. Whenever you say yes to someone else's priority out of guilt, you are implicitly saying no to the deep, focused work required to achieve your own goals. The opportunities that actually align with what you want.
But practically speaking, wait, filtering every single request against my life goals and wearing the exact same clothes every day? I mean, that sounds incredibly rigid. Doesn't that take the spontaneity out of life?
It's not really about rigidity, though. It's about eliminating friction. It does feel a bit uncomfortable initially, sure, but the defense mechanism against that discomfort is extreme clarity. When your goals are nebulous, saying no feels mean. When your goals are hyper-specific, saying no just becomes a mechanical necessity.
What about when people push back, like family members who don't get it?
When people offer unsolicited opinions or criticize your new boundaries, you just apply a very specific filter. You ask yourself, in the grand scheme of achieving my life's goals, how important is this person's opinion?
Wow. Okay, so if they aren't on the path you're trying to walk, their opinion just gets force quit like the rest of those background apps.
Exactly.
But retraining your brain to handle that kind of social friction requires a lot of resilience. And there's a really fascinating concept from the source for building that resilience called the I Can Do This file. It's essentially tracking your milestones and your fears, like a digital trophy cabinet for your own bravery.
Building a habit of documenting your wins is so crucial. The author actually talks about keeping a dedicated workspace tab, like in Notion, where they record significant achievements.
And the fear that went with it, right?
Yes, crucially, you also record the terror that preceded the achievement, like their nerve-wracking first live session.
Yeah.
Documenting the entire process from the initial imposter syndrome to the successful execution provides tangible proof that your feelings of inadequacy are not actual facts.
Because on the days your RAM is completely depleted, you really need hard data to prove you can overcome friction, which ties directly into the daily gratitude habit. There's work by Dr. Sophia Godkin that shows taking just a moment, using something like the Day One app at 8 p.m. to log your daily highlights, fundamentally alters how your brain processes reality.
Right, that happens through a biological mechanism called the reticular activating system.
Okay, wait, stop right there. The reticular activating system, you have to explain that to me like I'm 5, because that just sounds like a piece of heavy machinery.
Fair enough. Think of the reticular activating system, or the RAS, as a bouncer at the door of a highly exclusive nightclub. And the nightclub is your conscious mind.
Okay, I'm with you.
At any given second, your brain is bombarded with millions of bits of sensory information. If you processed all of it, you would quite literally go insane. So the bouncer filters out almost everything, only letting in the information that matches your internal programming. Have you ever, say, bought a specific car, and suddenly you see that exact car everywhere on the highway?
Oh, yes, all the time. It feels like everyone bought one on the exact same day.
Exactly. The cars were always there, but your bouncer was previously ignoring them. Once you bought the car, you told the bouncer, hey, this is important to me now. When you practice daily gratitude, you are actively instructing your RAS bouncer to look for opportunities, resources, and positive outcomes.
And if you just complain all the time.
And then you instruct the bouncer to only let in evidence of how unfair the world is.
Man, that is powerful. So we've completely rewired the brain's diet to be a creator. We've force-quit the background apps to free up cognitive RAM. And we've reprogrammed the bouncer to look for opportunities. Now, what do we actually do with that optimized system? This is where the newfound energy has to be directed into the financial mechanics.
Because mindset without mechanics is just wishful thinking. To build lasting wealth, you have to systematize your money so it operates independently of your daily emotions. Warren Buffett famously laid out this principle. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving.
But the source takes that a step further for modern wealth building, right?
Yes. The updated version is, do not save and invest what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving and investing.
That distinction, putting investing in front of spending before a single penny is spent, is entirely about automation. Because if the money hits your checking account and just sits there, your emotional brain is going to find a highly illogical sounding reason to spend it.
Exactly.
By setting up a system where a fixed percentage is automatically routed into investments before you ever even see it, you remove the friction of having to actively choose to do the right thing every single payday.
It takes the emotion completely out of the equation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. There is this massive debate on platforms like TikTok right now, where people equate budgeting to being on this strict, miserable financial diet. The perception is that tracking your money is inherently restrictive, but the source argues budgeting is actually an empowering financial compass.
Right, because it removes anxiety by replacing guessing with knowing. And to eliminate that vagueness, the source recommends categorizing expenses into 3 distinct buckets: fundamental, fun, and future.
Can you break those down? Sure.
Fundamentals are your non-negotiable living expenses, needs basically. Fun covers your lifestyle choices, the things that make life enjoyable today. And the future bucket is for growth and investments.
And populating those buckets requires specific reverse-engineered goals. Like saying, I want to save more money is a terrible goal because your brain doesn't know what more looks like. But if your goal is, I will save $30,000 for a down payment for a forever home by the end of 2027, you take this massive, intimidating number and you break it down. It becomes exactly $1,250 a month.
And when you break it down into a monthly mechanical task like that, the fear center of your brain stops panicking. It realizes the task is actually manageable. But executing those mechanics requires continuous education. As Buffett also notes, the more you learn, the more you earn.
So how much time should we be spending on that?
The source suggests dedicating just 1 hour a week to learning about money. That simple habit can yield astronomical returns over a lifetime.
I really want to dig into a very specific area of that education that you don't hear talked about enough, which is behavioral finance. The source points out that our fundamental relationship with money is largely imprinted by childhood experiences as young as age 7.
It is a staggering psychological reality.
By 7 years old, just based on observing the adults around us, we have already internalized whether money is a tool of empowerment or a source of constant scarcity and anxiety, whether we become a confident investor or an anxious spender.
Think about it. If you were raised in an environment where money was a source of whispered arguments or intense stress, your nervous system associates financial management with danger. Even as an adult making a great salary, you might self-sabotage or hoard cash irrationally or avoid investing entirely because your 7-year-old brain is still trying to protect you from that perceived danger.
So spending that 1 hour a week learning isn't just about reading stock charts. It's really about untangling the messy psychological baggage we all carry.
Exactly.
And once you begin to untangle that, you inevitably hit the final phase of this transformation. You've optimized your internal world, protected your energy, and automated your money. Now, the final step is scaling those results by involving the outside world.
Which forces us to confront the biggest social taboo of all, which is talking about money. I mean, 45% of Americans completely refuse to discuss personal finances with family or friends. Yet, interestingly, 66% acknowledge that having these conversations is critical to achieving financial freedom.
It's so true. Think about the last time you brought up personal budgeting with a friend. It usually feels like a massive taboo, right? If you're at a dinner party and you casually bring up asset allocation or ask someone how they manage their household budget, the air just leaves the room.
People look at you like you just asked them for their social security number.
Exactly. It feels incredibly intrusive.
It feels intrusive because we have this habit of tying our net worth to our self-worth. But what if we completely neutralize the topic?
Like, treat financial strategies like we treat sharing a good recipe or a workout routine.
Yes, exactly. The source suggests you can bypass the taboo by using casual, non-intrusive openers. Like, I've been thinking about budgeting lately. How do you manage yours? The objective isn't to compare salaries, it's to exchange mechanisms.
And that exchange of mechanisms is really the core of networking with intent. There is a brilliant case study in the source of Chris Donnelly, who made $10 million in his first year of business. His strategy: reaching out to 50 or more people every single month.
But there's a huge caveat there.
Right, because let me voice what every introvert listening is currently screaming in their head. Reaching out to 50 strangers a month sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Oh.
How do you do that without coming across as a sleazy, opportunistic salesperson just sliding into LinkedIn DMs?
The absolute golden rule here is the direction of the value exchange. A sleazy approach is extractive. You're just reaching out to see what you can take from them. A high-level networking approach is additive. The rule is add value, don't just take.
You're giving them something first.
Yes. Before you ever ask for an introduction or a favor, you offer value. Maybe you send them an article highly relevant to their specific industry, or you point out a broken link on their website, or you just offer a piece of really thoughtful public feedback on their work.
You're paying the toll in value before you ask to drive on their road. And as you expand that network, you naturally expand your capacity for diversifying your income, which is the ultimate financial safeguard. Millionaires have multiple streams. If one stream dries up, the others absorb the shock.
However, there is a dangerous trap here with multiple streams. The current hustle culture narrative tells you to start 5 side hustles at once.
Which goes back to the cognitive RAM issue.
Exactly. Do not do that. You will spread your RAM too thin and fail at all of them. The mechanism for multiple streams is sequential. You start with one. You systematize it until it is self-sustaining. Only then do you expand and direct your energy to the next one.
And the absolute ultimate investment you can make first is in yourself, your own skill set. Like, we are living in a time where you can log on to platforms like Brilliant and learn data analysis using real-world data sets from Airbnb, Spotify, and Starbucks. Being able to interpret data makes you indispensable. But here's where people get completely stuck. They buy the course, they do all the research, and then they just wait for the perfect moment to actually launch the business or apply for the job.
The perfect moment is an illusion. Your brain is just using preparation to delay the discomfort of taking a risk. The critical habit is to take action before you feel fully ready. You just have to accept that you will make blunders.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, actually, I think that perfectly ties into the source's final concept.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, all 17 of these micro habits, from force quitting background apps to automating your finances to taking imperfect leaps of faith, they all culminate in one unifying framework: the 1% rule.
Just making small, consistent 1% improvements monthly rather than waiting for the perfect moment.
Exactly. This is the antidote to the overwhelming paralysis of lifestyle transformation. Small changes like trimming a single expense or sending one value-add email bypass the brain's fear center. They add up to massive compound results over time without you feeling overwhelmed.
So, to synthesize this entire journey, True transformation doesn't require shivering in an ice bath or engaging in some extreme 4 a.m. hustle. It requires an intentional audit of your inputs, automating your saving, fiercely protecting your mental energy, and taking a tiny 1% leap forward every single day.
It's about consistency over intensity.
Completely. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final thought to just mull over. We talked earlier about how our money mindset is shaped by experiences as early as age 7. So what does this all mean for you today?
It's a heavy question.
It really is, because if financial confidence or deep-seated anxiety is planted by age 7, what micro habits are you inadvertently modeling right now? Through your offhand comments about money or your daily routines, what are the 7-year-olds in your life seeing? Are your micro habits just changing your personal future? Or are they quietly writing the financial blueprints for the next generation?
Wow, that really recontextualizes the stakes of everything we've talked about.
It changes the whole game. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We encourage you to take your first 1% step today, force quit a background app, and we'll catch you next time.